keep this presentation quite nice and quick. So, I mean, the theme of day one is about coordination, cross-sectoral partnerships, and these national and regional frameworks. And that's really what our session is going to speak about. And I'm saying our because I'll be joined by two co-speakers. And really in speaking about collaboration and coordination, this project involves so many different stakeholders in the table. So I thought it only makes sense to have some of those stakeholders come up and co-present this work with me. So I would like to welcome Bono from the Department of Health up and Katlego from the South African Weather Service up to join me. So I'll get us kick-started, and before we really go into the slides, I love the presentation before us, really speaking about that gap between early warnings and action. And I mean, this program that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into, it speaks to early warnings, 100%. That's kind of the trigger point for anything, but as well as the action on the ground and what it actually takes to reach the people on the ground, and especially the most vulnerable. So this program that we've developed, so I'm from the World Bank, and we've been working really closely with the South African National Treasury on extreme heat in cities over the past few years. And this program is really going to speak about how our program has developed over the past few years, and now we're moving towards a more implementation-driven initiative called the Gauteng City Region Heat Action Plan and Early Warning System. So before we go into the details, just a little bit of background on how this program is really advanced. So roughly 4 to 5 years ago, the South African National Treasury approached the World Bank, and they wanted to basically strengthen the capacity of the 8 metros in South Africa to build a capacity of their understanding, firstly, of extreme heat risks, what are the risks at a city level, and how they can actually manage it and include it within their operations. So our program started in 2020, and it really, I mean, just looking back initially, extreme heat was not even spoken about. There were conversations here and there. None of the cities or metros are actually doing anything to respond to or to plan for extreme heat. And fast forwarding now to maybe 5 years later, I mean, all around the world, we hear this global call for heat action and heat. I mean, currently in Europe, there's heat waves going on, and in Africa, it's a significant problem in the summer season as well. So, I mean, 5 years down the line, we are already seeing this drive globally and now nationally within South Africa. So our program first started with just trying to understand the baseline heat risks. We did a lot of heat mapping campaigns in cities to look at the city level and neighborhood level heat dynamics to help the cities better plan for and prepare for heat. We also did some heat in certain settings. So we did a heat study in the minibus taxi setting, and we got a partner to undertake that study. So really just trying to understand the baseline heat dynamics at our city levels and how can we assist these cities in better planning and responding to heat. And now we wanted to move away from understanding risk to now action. We want to actually drive an implementation-driven approach, and that's really where this program has now been developed. So it's called the Gauteng Heat Action Plan and Early Warning System. So for those of you who don't know, the Gauteng City Region includes 3 cities or 3 metros: the city of Johannesburg, the city of Ncongwane, which is Pretoria, and the city of Ekurhuleni. So basically, we are trying to develop a multi-city heat early warning system with an action protocol tied to this. So we're not only speaking about the early warning system and the information, but we're talking about the action and how we actually act on the ground. So to do this, we have formed a multi-stakeholder working group with key institutions to kind of formalize this program. It includes the 3 cities, the Gauteng Province, National Treasury, we've got the Department of Health, we've got the Weather Services, Disaster Management, civil society and research institutions. So really from your high government level to your grassroots communities and making sure everyone is on board. And for those of you who are probably not South African, but we refer to this working group structure as a bring and braai. So for those who aren't South African, a braai is like a barbecue. And when you go to a barbecue, someone brings the meat, another person brings the salad, another person brings the dessert. But basically, in essence, is everyone has a part to play or a role to play, whether it be expertise, tools, or perspectives. Everyone comes to this working group with something to share, with something to represent. And that's what's so important about this program and the cross-sectoral dynamics of it. And although this program is very much centered in health, we want to save lives and reduce health impacts. It includes so many different sectors and institutions involved to bring this program alive. So I'll now hand over to Bono from the Department of Health to really kind of represent what the health has been doing over the past few years with this program and how this program actually is grounded in health to save lives and reduce health impacts.
Good afternoon. I think taking from what Bradley just presented, it's one good example to say when you are doing things together, collaboration actually yield better results. And it's a message, it's a take-home message, and this is what we are benefiting from as a country and also as a ministry. So looking at the work at hand, how does it actually impact in terms of what health is doing? As much as we are saying we are looking at issues of heat, how do we then leverage or how do we get to benefit out of it? We zoom into our vision as a ministry. We are looking at a long and healthy life for all South Africans. And at the same time, also looking at ensuring that we increase the life expectancy to 70 years. So if we are not addressing impacts that are associated with extreme heat, we will not even reach that. And we are seeing it already currently with an increase of non-communicable diseases. So it's just that time does not allow. I would have been asking to say from all who are sitting here, how many chronic illnesses have you been diagnosed with? And are you only associating that with age? Or are you only associating that maybe with the lifestyle? And you are not even maybe associating it with impacts of extreme heat. So it's one thing that when we are working on this particular work, we are also zooming into that. And what we are looking at is also our role as health and our mandate. I think this technology. Oh, okay. So what we have done in terms of looking at this particular work for heat, we sort of got guidance from the World Health Organization in terms of what they've developed, which is the Heat Health Action Plan. Guidance, and as a country we then zoom into it to say what is it that we can be able to take out of it to guide also our own clinicians and the health sector as a whole in terms of addressing issues of extreme heat. So we developed the National Heat Health Action Guidelines in 2020, which was then a guiding document that guides all the 9 provinces in South Africa. We've got 9 provinces. We've got 53 health districts that actually it's a combination of 8 metropolitan and 44 district municipalities. So our guideline was actually just trying to ensure that the sector itself is actually ready to address issues of extreme heat. The other issue was that we were looking at increase in temperature, and that is where we will bring in South African weather services. I think when we started this work and when we were developing this, they were at the center of it all to be able to guide in terms of what have been the trend in terms of extreme heat or in terms of heat in the country. If we are developing this, how is it going to assist us? But one other thing was that also the fact that in the country we have 3 spheres of government, We wanted to ensure that all the spheres of government know their role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that we effectively address the issues of rising in temperature. So the department actually, we are supposed to do that. In terms of the guideline itself, we had several areas we were looking at. We needed to build capacity of clinicians and also health sector as a whole. We are not looking at only clinicians in terms of diagnosis or proper diagnosis and treatment of heat-related illnesses, but we are also looking at as the entire sector. You find that we've got general workers who are working outdoors. How do we also address such? And when we had the first engagement by World Bank in this work, when they were giving presentation in terms of the findings of the urban heat from Gauteng region in for Ekurhuleni and also for city of Joburg, we had officials from Metropolis. And when there were those presentations to say, well, sometimes we overlook people who are working outdoors. Are we even looking at that? And I remember her raising the fact that you look also at the uniform that we wear. People don't even consider it. Once you start having people absenteeism a lot, you don't even associate it to the fact that people are becoming exhausted. Heat, in terms of heat, there are stages where you go through. It can be heat illness, heat stroke. Heat stroke is the last one, but you can have heat exhaustion because of you being exposed more to heat. So she said she has been identifying that more personnel have been reporting absent, but she was not associating that with issues of impact of heat and the type of uniform that they are utilizing. So we still have a lot to do. I cannot say we are there as yet, but capacity we are doing. If you look at the far right, this is just one report that we got when we were conducting a climate change and health webinars for the sector, and we were able to reach several stakeholders or professionals who were attending, but we believe that we still have a lot of work to do. And also, if you look, the middle one is where the city of Ncongwane was actually capacitating the food, the food handlers, those who sell food outdoors along the streets, so that they also take note of the impacts of extreme heat or heat on issues of food. So we are actually rolling this out to our municipalities and also our provinces. Yes, we can say we have small wins. Last week we were doing the assessments for municipalities in accordance to our norms and standards for environmental health in Western Cape for 2 district municipalities. I'm happy that 1 district municipality is actually doing all of it. All of it, I mean, they have implementation, they've done their action plans, they're actually even developing IECs, that's information, communication, and education material, yeah. So they are developing for their communities in their local languages, which is something that is a small win to us. One other area in terms of implementation of the guideline is research. We have research institutions, as I've indicated in the morning, that sits in our steering committee that are conducting as the different works. These ones I only took out those that are actually conducting research on heat impacts associated with health. So we've got High Horizon project where they are looking at heat and maternal, newborn and child indicators, and this is a study that is done for South Africa and Zimbabwe, and it's conducted by VETS RHI. We also have another one that is conducted in the Bembe and also Khayelitsha area, and it's between South Africa and Ghana, and it's for heat adaptation benefits for vulnerable groups in Africa. I did not put the pictures of that because the time is very minimal and we need to share the time, the 3 of us. I would have been showcasing the pictures for that guides in terms of progress with regard to these two studies, but we have a lot of other studies that are being conducted. We also, as part of the guideline, have a component on risk communication and community engagement. This is where we develop materials after we have received warnings from South African Weather Services. This is one that we actually developed. I think we had a series of, it might be 11 that we developed during the time where we received a warning, and we shared that with our provinces and our municipalities and also our communication in the department for them to ensure that all communicators within their radar are able to sort of cascade that to different areas. Okay. Okay, so what is our role in terms of the Gauteng HEP rollout? We are looking at, we've got 4 components, and I'm not going to present on them. I think Bradley will present on them at a later stage. Let's hope time allows. But as a health, we have actually looked at the 3 that we've got a lot of contribution towards, and we are also going to benefit more on those. So I think I will just stop here and highlight the fact that for us to be able to respond, we also need South African Weather Services to be able to warn us. If they don't warn us, there will not be much that we will be able to do. So the minute we get warnings, it means we need to do something, and hence it's very important that we also understand the turnaround times in terms of, you know, sharing of such particular warnings for us to see impact in terms of the work that we do. Thank you. Over to you, Katlego.
Thank you, Bono. Picking up from where Bono left, I will then be talking about our contribution at this as a South African service. I think we are all in this room on the same page in terms of what is happening when we're talking about climate change. And I'm not gonna retell the gory story. We are all on the pulse, at least in this room. But there's also a need for us to go down on the grassroots to ensure that the same understanding is expressed in our communities so that they can be able to act. So as I said, 1.5 degrees, we've already breached that during Paris. It was focused at that by 2026. We're already there. And the question is, are we gonna stay in that 1.5 degrees for an extended time, which will be very problematic to us? We will be creating a non-livable planet. So we have the evidence from the global perspective. Locally, there's also evidence. Am I able to point, Becky? Well, I can't point. Where do I point? Oh, yay, technology colleagues. Okay. So I wanted to indicate that we understand from the global perspective in terms of what is happening. We have breached the 1.5 on our way to 1 to 2 degrees, and we understand the consequences as much as even now, especially when we're talking about heat impact. We now know that in 2003, some of the thresholds that we've already seen and that has resulted in thousands of people losing their lives, they're actually going through that path. So locally, as I was saying, I want to go back to the previous slide. Body of knowledge in terms of our ground information from our observation network, which serve as the baseline, and there are studies that also, talk to what is being observed from the global stage. But I want to draw your attention to the two bell curves. The two bell curves, you can see that there is a shift. It talks about a climate shift that has happened over years, and you will note them, and it's not quite visible that when you see the shift which results from this 1 degree, only 1 degree, then you're able to then see increase in number of days, hot night, okay? And even the projected models that are being run everywhere, simulated everywhere, they are speaking the same language. So when a system, there is a continuous input, then there is no stabilization, and that's when you try to see that. And then as a result, when we are looking at our data, what you see there on the bottom center is the number of maximum days that we have hit as a country when they do an assessment over years. And what you see there in the map, where you are seeing your dark red is where you are actually seeing an acceleration in the number of maximum hot days. We're not talking about a combination. We're talking just looking at temperature as a parameter. When you bring in other meteorological factors, then you're talking about something else. Quite key and very at center of the discussion, humidity. Again, we're talking about the temperature rise and whatnot. But what will tilt everything is the humidity, which now human body, again, we are operating optimally at 35, 37 degrees, isn't it? Anything below and unfunctional, anything. And then your body, it is regulated. So when you are too hot, what do you do? But when the outside environment is humid, are you going to sweat effectively to regulate yourself, to stabilize yourself so that you are able to function? Your physiological processes are able to function. No. And you can imagine that the story changes in terms of the impact when you look at the smaller kids who have the small body. You're talking about area now, you have to apply your mathematics. They are small, they can't sweat as quick as possible. It's a very limited area of exposure for that. Quickly moving along. Okay. So we are on the same pulse in terms of what is happening globally. It's either you mitigate or you adapt, isn't it? So globally, we understand from the world data centers that disasters are increasing, and when they do, they quantify 7 times in terms of the hydrometric extremes, 5 times in terms of all other disasters that you can think about. Issue is that 91% of the impact here in Africa, right home. So you have now, I'll say, a very vulnerable group at the front line of this battle of climate change. They have less ability to adapt because of low adaptive capacity. When you talk about early warning system, you have to take a pause. Will they understand the messaging that you're providing to them? Do they have access to the smartphones that we currently use to communicate? How do you then manage that front row group that is less capable to protect themselves accordingly when those early warnings are issued? Early warning for all, very ambitious, you'll agree. What's your assessment? Are we getting there? Are we on the right trajectory? 2027, 2 years, are we, is there hope, colleagues? Oh, can I see some patience? Is there hope? Is it ambitious? Is it capable? Are we able? I mean, it's a global cause. It's not just the UN, but then it implicates you and I. As a brilliant recipient or participant, in your understanding where you are we on the right trajectory in terms of us winning, being able to meet that target, that set objectives, which is quite, ambitious. Are we well on our way?
You will try.
Yeah, but my challenge is one. even those global economies that will say that they have all the resources in the world and are able to push in everything they have, they are still not there. What puts us, especially when you are in an environment where there are competing priorities. In South Africa, heat it is not a boom, boom, bang. It is not, and it's quite silent. And unfortunately, how the data is captured, it does not serve the purpose, doesn't assist us in any way. But if you talk about flooding, you can see the impact, you can see the disasters, and you are able to elicit, I'll say at least the basic action from our government to hold our resources. But yeah, early warning for all, what we do, product development, is also informed by the Sendai framework, which talks about it needs to be risk informed. Even in the early warning pillars, your foundation is what? Risk assessment. You need to know where you are, what you have, what you can use within your space in order to win the battle. From the weather service side, we are an entity of the department. We are not just about maximum minimum temperatures. And we have a fully fledged research department that conducts research and also support one of our mandates, because we have a dual mandate. We provide the public good services mandated by the Source Act and its amendment to ensure that everyone that is within the borders of South Africa get access. It is a legislation, we are underpinned by that. We get the marching order, and if you can consult the Act. It does provide something like 8 objectives. And some of those objectives, it talks about international obligation that we need to provide information, which I'm going to talk about, that informs our early warning. As I said, mandated, it's a legislation. Then we are providing within, remember we have integrated multi-hazard early warning system, which brings everything else. And then today the focus is heat, given the work that we're doing with the department and also with the World Bank. Within that value chain, we are focusing various products and services. We are providing within the limited or the now casting timescale your early warning systems in terms of discomfort index, and even there we are able to provide, depending on the data that we use, the different heat indices. The simpler, when you're using just your temperature, humidity, obviously it's not going to be as robust. But the more you go deeper, and Bono talked about clothing, the more you go deeper, whereby you now bring in additional factors. What did this person, what was he doing? Was he running? You factor that into the equation. And does he have commodities that will not allow the body or support the body to do the necessary to regulate? What was he wearing? He was wearing a jas so that the heat doesn't dissipate, all those things. So we are able to provide those services. And if you go higher on the chain, we're able to provide monthly forecasts that are based on temperature. Technology, I'm going to rush through, sorry. I'm rushing through, yes. So those alerts, I told you about the alerts from the heat side. I talked about your normal warning and the heat wave, which is what is on the council with everyone. Then we are able to provide it. We are providing bulletins. We are providing also various advisories that are captured. Obviously, behind that, then there is a robust value chain that talks to observation, that talks to how you manage your data framework, that talks to then how you don't implement your models, and then you provide your product and services in line with what? That is the complete value chain in terms of our delivery across those different time steps. There are various products and services. But then the main thing is impact-based, because where we are now is not just talking about that the weather is 40 degrees, but we talk about what impact, and not only do that further extent to translate the information into the languages, various languages, even to accommodate disabled, because that is also the discussion that is left behind. For disabled, you need to then have dedicated product services and different alerts, because if someone is on a wheelchair, you need to give them far lead time so that they can be able to act accordingly. So we have a lot of work. These are the various platforms where we provide our information. It's there. Even here, we have alert channels, it's those channels, various multi-channels, I'm not gonna talk that. Yeah, and then I'll stop there and hand over to my colleague. With the World Bank, we are focusing our efforts in now fine-tuning the heat plan. Bono spoke about the national heat plan, whereby we have all the stakeholders implementing in national, but we need to now downscale, isn't it? So that we can be closer to the problem and are able to customize actions that are taken to that. So one of the work that we're doing is exactly that, to look at Gauteng and to tailor-make the actions around it. And our role as the weather service is to work with the SMRC so that we are able to then incorporate the temperature mortality information together with our weather information to provide then a robust thresholds that we need as a country. Very basic, simplified, robot scale, red, green, amber, red, amber, green, green, gold. We want that because we want this thing not to be complex. We need to simplify it for our people. There's a need, obviously, for us to have dashboards. We spoke about dashboard. We have developed such from the weather service, whereby we are developing a pull and a push effort so that no one can come and say that information was never reached. But quite important how you package your data in consideration of the cultures, shocks, and what, and everything else that you can think about. Service delivery, that needs to be taken into consideration when we implement. Not everyone has a tap 200 meters. So all those things have to be brought in. So we have a long way to go. I'll provide that to my co-presenter.
Thanks, Katlego. So I know, Gary, we are a little bit over. So I'll just sum up the last little bit. I'll just fast track through Katlego's slides. So, basically, we heard from Bono and Katlego, but our role as the World Bank, as almost conveners of the stakeholder group, we've seen that there's pockets of good work being done in health, good work being done in the weather service, and good work being done in other institutions as well. But us as conveners is really just connecting those dots and bringing everyone together, bringing those sectors together to create a more impactful and actionable plan on the ground, which is informed by an early warning system, but making sure that it is reaching the most vulnerable and there's actually responses and actions at the end of the day. So I'll just briefly touch on the structure of this program. So it's actually modeled after the Ahmedabad Heat Action Plan, which has a four-pillared approach that saves lives and an estimated 1,200 lives each year during heat waves. And it's triggered by a very simple traffic light early warning system that the South African Weather Service is actually working on now, which activates various heat action measures. And these are the four pillars that we're focusing on. So the first one is early warning systems and emergency response protocols. So defining those early warning systems and what those responses should be for each institution. The second one is public awareness, making sure that messaging is actually reaching the most vulnerable. And when that information reaches them, they actually know what to do and how to act. The third one is capacity building within the healthcare sector. So we found that there's a massive gap within healthcare workers and within the healthcare system in South Africa, that these healthcare workers actually don't know how to treat someone that comes to them with a heat-related illness. So it's really just upskilling them and building capacity within the healthcare sector. And then the last one is on heat exposure reduction, more focus on the built environment. So how do we better climate-proof informal settlements, and how do we integrate climate-resilient infrastructure within our urban planning? So these are the four pillars that we're focusing on, and I won't actually go into detail on each of them. You can see there's a lot of objectives that we are trying to achieve. But basically, just what this has actually taken. So it's been 10 months of collaboration. It's included 34 different institutions with over 60 individuals. So it takes this huge group of people to come together to speak about the issues that they are facing in their silos, and how do we break across those silos to achieve one goal. And that is what we keep continuing to work on, and we're piloting this heat action plan in the upcoming summer, so in around November this year, that's going to have this early warning system that triggers various heat action plan measures on the ground. And what's really exciting about this piece of work, that yes, it's focused on heat, but we are using it as a blueprint and as a pilot, and hopefully we can scale it up for heat across South Africa and other hazards that we can actually integrate an early warning system with actionable responses and actions on the ground. So, and this last slide is just really just pictures of some of the actions and us at work trying to achieve this goal. But I mean, we touched on a very high level of what's actually happening, and there's so much more going on behind the scenes, so we'll be happy to chat about it during the networking breaks or throughout the course of the 3 days. But thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
So, hello everybody. My name is Michael. I represent company running Metal Innovations from Slovakia. This was supposed to be my boss's job, my CEO's job to present here. I'm much more comfortable with microphone when I'm a musician and singing in a band, but hopefully I'm not sweating bullets too much, so bear with me for this couple of 10 to 15 minutes. So we're going to talk about the PPP partnerships with the agriculture while using a dense IoT weather station observation network. So let's hop on it. So everybody understands the risks of regional climate risks, increasing frequency of droughts, floods, hurricanes, maybe and even landslides. I remember from last year, Mr. Adelito from Mozambique. I don't know if he's here present today. Talking to you right now, you're basically telling us that Mozambique, and not only Mozambique, but Africa as such, is a supermarket for natural disasters. This is kind of a funny thing to say. So, the result of that, food security threats, of course, with crop losses, disrupted supply chains, and therefore the early warning systems are for saving lives and protect the livelihoods. The biggest challenges that we hear over and over again, not only from private sector, but also from Met offices as such, is lack of trained personnel, maintenance costs, and lack of funding. For the third part, we can help, very sadly, we can help. But with the first 2 points, lack of trained personnel and maintenance costs, there's definitely a solution for that. And we understand the struggle. So you train the personnel, in 1, maybe 2 years, they leave for financially more attractive jobs, and you have to repeat the process all over again. And what you're left with is usually more complicated weather network observation system, AVO systems that you need to take care of. And there's a need for that educational time for the trained personnel to get to know with the system as such. So they are definitely necessary. And we're talking about AVOS weather stations. They are good. They are very necessary when you need special sensors in certain locations. But for dense network building, you need basic standard measurements in as many microclimates as possible. That is the necessity. It's not easy to build these AVOS weather stations in microclimates, and I'm sure all of you know that, because in remote places, the costs for installation and for maintenance raises totally up. So in these microclimates, it might even endanger communities if they're not prepared for natural disasters such as landslides, high winds, floods, etc. So we used to build the traditional AWS weather stations, data logger, everything wired, etc., of course. What we did eventually with AWS weather stations is we decided to split it up in different modules, in different sensors, and put measurements together that make sense. So, for example, air temperature, humidity, pressure,